Hi, this is David Fleming, recording another training video for the first time in quite some time. It has been a long year of the pandemic. That's where we are in time right now. It has been almost a year to the day since the shutdown. So if you want historical perspective, that's what time it is. And I haven't done a training video in quite some time, and this is appropriately so the last class that I generally teach in the training cycle. So I'm going to do this training. You're probably watching it because perhaps you missed the live class, and I've taught this live for many months now, and it's while we've been doing virtual learning. So this is a class on multiple additional options to think about when you start job searching beyond the big three, for let's say beyond Indeed.com, beyond Craigslist for email and small business applications, or even the monsters of the world. There are some interesting options that I want you to consider, and that's what this class is. Basically, you should be on your last class now if you're watching this video, which means you've essentially come to the end of the training. So congratulations on that. I hope that you are ready to do some work during this video. So obviously, as always, I want you to be prepared to go online and to do some internet search and some active job search even. In the end, I kind of want you to do some job search to finish up your training so that I can feel comfortable that you are ready to go off and achieve your goals and have the tools to do so. And another thing you must have done is seen the link that I sent you to take the final assessment. The final assessment is the same assessment you took when you came in. So what are we trying to do? We're trying to measure your progress. We need to measure your progress. Any educational or training program needs to do that at all times. So I want to measure your progress. Hope wants to measure your progress. And I always think it's important that you know what you've accomplished in any training. So the only way for you to really know that is to take the assessment to the best of your ability. Take it like you're fighting for a job where this assessment is what is on the line when you're applying for this job. I always think you should do that for any assessment that's related to employment, even if it's not exactly your area of interest. Do it as best you can. Fight for the championship. Put yourself a cut above. See what you've accomplished. And obviously, I will recognize you as high achievers, whether it's the most improved or the top performers. There may be ties, and I hope there'll be a couple of perfect scores, which is not easy. So that's also something you'll be doing in this last day or so. But thank you for watching this and completing the training because you missed the last class, and I hope this is useful to you. So here's what the training is. There are options, there are ways to look at your job search. And I believe that you've learned a few of my principles. And when you go on Indeed or when you go on to do any job search, how you prepare yourself, what do you need to have available? Be prepared for anything. Every application you click apply now to could provide challenges, may have very lengthy procedures that you have to go through, which is frustrating. I do an entire other class, which you may now know about because we actually got on HBO. I got on HBO with Mr. E on a special that covered, it was named Persona, and it covered the dark side of personality tests on job applications. So if you ever get a chance to go on HBO Max and look that documentary up, it's a very good one, and it's bracing because it's frustrating when you go online and find yourselves confronted with all of these personal questions. So you really never know when you hit apply now what you're going to encounter. But you can get an idea of what each site is like and the quality of each site if you get some advanced knowledge. And that's what I'm going to try to show you. So I'm going to go through some slides and I'm going to discuss some different ideas as you go through job search and give you some new options to consider. And I'd like you to do them as I show them to you. So let's start from this. Let's start from the idea that when you do job search, there are always things that you have to be able to measure as you go through the frustrations, because it is frustrating. You're online, you're not seeing anybody. Most of the time, they're not responding to you beyond form letters saying that they got your application. You could lose hope, and you can get caught up on one application. You can get fixated on one job because you wanted it so bad and end up wasting an awful lot of time and psychological or mental energy when you have to, when you have to think that you have to keep going. And so I want to talk about the ideas that there are things that you can control and therefore probably should, in order to put yourself in the best situation to be able to get a call back, because that's ultimately your goal, is to get some sort of contact, real contact, to take the next step. And there are things that are beyond your control, which you should probably let go, not let it get you caught up on why am I not hearing back from this one application. So let's talk about what the things that you can control and the things that you cannot control. Let's talk about the things that are beyond your control. Every company goes through changes sometimes. They change their minds. They go through management changes. They get bought out. All sorts of circumstances can occur. Economy can change. The pandemic changed an awful lot when that hit and everything shut down. If there were jobs that were listed at that time, you can be sure those jobs were ultimately taken down because everything changed so much. So jobs can be put on hold, and you may not know that after you've applied. And so if you don't hear a response and you've done everything under your control, it may be because they've changed their policy, their ideas, their business the model may have changed. You can't help that. So allow yourself to be aware that there are reasons beyond your control that you can't get hung up on. So yes, their policy may have changed. They may have changed their mind. They're no longer looking for that position to be filled. So the job is on hold. They're not going to tell you. So move on with your search. Move on with your professional life. Please don't sit there waiting for one response when this may be the reason. They may have already offered it to somebody else. And sometimes the position stays up on these websites a little bit too long, and you went ahead and applied, and they're not going to tell you that they've already filled the job. Again, you can't let that stop you. And again, you cannot allow yourself to get stuck on one job listing simply because there are reasons that may be beyond your knowledge and beyond your control. And internal issues, company internal issues, are some of the things I've talked to you about. Back in my music days, internal issues in the record companies can change a person's career. My partner and I had a record that was #1 in many cities in the first 3 weeks of it being released, way back in the 90s. We were so excited. It was about to hit, go through the whole country, and yet somebody bought out the record label. Another corporation bought out the record label, and new ownership, new leadership, and that leadership dropped all but 2 artists. Of course, we were one of them, and so many other famous artists just dropped. We can't control that. It was painful. And that was my livelihood at the time. The same thing can happen when you're searching for work or when you're on the job. Company internal issues happen, and honestly, they're generally speaking beyond your control. So please be aware of these kinds of things when you do your job search and you don't hear back, in order to allow you to not get stuck on one job waiting to hear back from them. You have to keep moving. Now, with the idea that you have to keep moving, let's talk about what is in your control so that every application you submit will not be a waste of your time and give you the best opportunity to get a call back. So some of the things that are under your control are things like looking at the details for the application. If there was a deadline, yet you went ahead and applied anyway because you didn't read the fine print carefully and you applied after the deadline, well, that's something under your control and something that you should avoid so that you don't end up spending all this time going through the application process and wondering why you don't get a response because you actually missed the deadline yourself. Simple things like that. When you look at the qualifications for a position, and you just power through, even though they said they want a college degree and you don't have anything near a college degree, or they wanted 10 years of experience or 5 years experience and you have no experience. These are the kinds of things that can end up spinning your wheels, if you know that term. You do a lot of work, but no traction is occurring because you didn't read the fine print. The qualifications they're looking for are not what you present to them. That makes a difference. That can also result in you being stubborn, saying, well, I want that job bad enough that I'm going to apply anyway. Okay, that's your choice. But it could be easily a waste of your time. Now, close calls are a different story. When you see qualifications and you have close to what they need, and you believe you have enough skill and enough understanding of that job that you think it's worth your time to press forward, especially if they say some qualifications are preferred instead of required. But even if you come really close and you feel that you've got that kind of background and experience and skill, that you have a chance to talk your way in and impress them enough with your application, okay, go for it. But look at the qualifications carefully so you don't end up just wasting time and effort and psychic energy. Issues with your resume. Well, first of all, make sure you always submit your final resume, that the resume is in excellent shape, always proofed, doesn't have any mistakes in it. So look carefully at the version that you're sending them. Make sure you don't send an old version that's not in perfect shape. And also think about what's on the resume compared to the job you're applying to. If you could strengthen your resume for that particular job because you have some other experience that's not really pointed out or stressed in the resume that you have now, make a copy of your resume and tailor it for that job so that it gets an even closer look by the employer because your resume is closer to what they're looking for. That's called tailoring your resume, and that's frequently recommended and done. And my lessons to you have always been, don't just change the resume you have, make a copy of the resume you have, name it carefully for the job you're applying to, and that way you can hold on to multiple versions of your resume. So be careful with the resume you submit. You didn't follow the application's instructions. That's obviously a problem. If they told you to paste your resume instead of attach it, and you go ahead and paste it, and you go ahead and attach it, well, you failed their first test because you went and did something that they instructed you to do otherwise. And you're ending up wasting your time. And look carefully, there's a lot of different kinds of instructions, how you fill in the boxes, what you need to put in the boxes, how you submit this and how you submit that. Read them carefully, follow them carefully so it doesn't get submitted either rejected immediately because it doesn't fit their form or because you didn't follow their instruction. They don't consider you a reliable employee. And then finally, we've talked about how your online social media presence and how you utilize the internet in recent days or recent years or recent months can really impact on your employability. So if you haven't already attended and looked carefully at your social media presence so that when you get to the second or third step, when they're thinking of hiring you and they go in and they look at your social media and they decide after all this time, they're not interested in you as an employee because of what you represent yourself as on social media, that's something you can control. So these are the things where you can control to put yourself in a better light and at a better position to get a call back. And then there are things you can't get hung up on because they're beyond your control. So I wanted to talk about that in the beginning. Now let's talk about the choices you have when you go online to find jobs that are listed. And there are a lot of them, as you clearly must know. You've heard of many of these, and maybe some of these you haven't. Some of them are very similar to each other. Some of them are just sort of knockoffs of another one. And some of them are very strong, well-designed, and with a lot of money and a lot of employers utilizing them. So there are many different choices. Let's go through a few of them. First, let's talk about the different kinds of online sites that there are. So I want to first talk about what's known as a job board. So a job board website for job listings. Job boards are websites that employers go directly to list their available jobs. And why would they go directly to these particular websites? Well, because they have faith in those websites. They've had good results in those websites. They utilize those websites because that's the kind of response that they've been getting good response from. So Craigslist is obviously, employers go straight to Craigslist. They just list jobs very quickly and very cheaply. We talked about that. So that's a job board. LinkedIn is another form of job board in that employers utilize it and go right to it to let people know that they're hiring. And another one is like similar to that is Glassdoor, and companies go straight to Glassdoor. I'm going to talk about that later a lot, about the option for Glassdoor, but the employers use them specifically to list their jobs. That's what a job board is. Now, another kind of website is what's known as a job search engine. So a job search engine, sort of like what it sounds like, it's a website that collects across the internet. They sort of suck in, look for, and add job listings that already exist and put them up on their website. More or less, that's the idea. Google is an obvious, you know what Google does. Google just collects, it's in touch with everything that's online anyway. It's got incredible technology involved. So when they can go find listings from multiple sources and collect them on the website so that you don't have to go to one website or another. They're all there, many of them already there. Indeed is another website like that. Indeed is well known for job companies. Companies do go to Indeed directly, but Indeed will also look for already existing job applications that are elsewhere, but they have a pretty strong filtering system. They're very robust. They don't like having scammy websites. They like legitimate jobs. So they tend to filter out the jobs that are looking to be shaky, and they tend to be larger companies. So larger institutions, organizations, and corporations and companies tend to use Indeed more than something like Craigslist, but Indeed is a collection of job sites as well as employers using them directly. And Simply Hired, I don't really know Simply Hired, but it's similar to a job search engine. Two different kind of websites. So what is advanced search? So advanced search is how you look for the jobs once you get on the job site. So many good websites give you the ability to tailor your search so that you don't cast your net too widely. So there's all sorts of ways to narrow down the job that you're looking for so that you don't waste time looking through jobs that are either too far away, don't pay what you want to pay, don't have the kind of benefits you're looking for, don't have it's a little bit outside the industry that you're interested in. All these different kinds of ideas about what you can waste your time on. And advanced search lets you get more pinpoint the kinds of jobs that you're looking for so that you get closer to what you're looking for and thus spend less time wasted. So I think we've talked about that before, and I'll go through some principles as we go through this later. All right, so I'm not going to go through the review. I think I've made it pretty clear. There's a difference between job boards and job search engines. And if you want to review that, you can always go back. And what is advanced search? Well, I'm going to go through that again later anyway. So now I want to talk about Google for Jobs. Now, I've talked about Indeed, and I've talked about all these other sites, but here you've been at Hope. You've been sitting there with your email account at Gmail, thus being already signed in. The moment you sign into your email account, you now realize you have your own drive. You have your storage space simply because you have a Google account. You have access to using Google Calendar. You can store your photos. See, all of this stuff is given to you simply by you opening up a Gmail account. It turns out that you can look for work on Google almost as if you were on, basically like as if you were on Indeed, simply because you're already signed into Google. And Google has a very powerful job search function. And you have access to it already as if it was your account, because your account is already set up, because you have the Gmail account. So that already is a feature that you may not have realized you have. So I want to make sure you're clear about how to use Google for Jobs. So let me give you a couple of initial primers, and I'm going to do a little exercise with you, and I'd like you to do it with me. So I want you all to be ready to go to a Google search page while you're signed into your Gmail account as well. All right, so the first thing to do on your Google search page, and if you had to pause, that's fine, we've resumed. Now that you've got your Google, just as if you're going to do any old Google search, you got your Google search window open, google.com. All you really need to do is do a search that involves the word jobs. And in any fashion, that even if it's receptionist jobs or maintenance jobs or video editing jobs, it doesn't really matter. Jobs near me, jobs. Jobs in a certain area, then it's simply a matter of that's what you type in the search window. As simple as that. And you'll get a couple of initial listings. But what you're really interested in after you've done this search, as you see here, you type in anything related to jobs. I don't really care what it is, all these different options here. Once you type that in, you will get a few listings, as you notice here, with this box that's got the blue bar that says jobs. That's what you're looking for at first. Once you see that, and you're going to see that, this blue bar and this box shows you 3 or 4 listings initially, but that's not all they've got. What you're looking for is at the bottom of that box, before we go to the general results, at the bottom of the box, you see a little box that says something like 100 plus or 50 plus more jobs than the listings that they gave you up here. That's what you want to click to go into their job search function, which you are already signed into. So here's what I want you to do. I want you all to type in google.com, type in something search in the search window related to jobs, and then look for that box that opens up and click on this little section right down here at the bottom that says something plus more jobs. Go ahead and click on that. And I'm going to stop sharing this and do the same with you. So I'm going to do digital. Let's just say I needed to look for another job. Digital literacy instructor jobs, which is of course the job I do now. I had 20 plus 25 years in the music business. I've done 10 years in digital literacy instruction. I love this job. I'm not going anywhere if I can help it. But let's just say I was looking. So I typed that in and I hit enter. And as usual, like I said, looks like there's some jobs available. And there are jobs, digital literacy instructor, summer camp. Okay, so there's some stuff I could look at. But here's what I'm looking down here. So for me, because I was so specific about digital literacy, I probably only have a few jobs, but it could say 100 plus more jobs. I could change the wording a little later on. So I'm going to click on that I told you down on the below where it said 29 plus more jobs. And now I'm in, as you probably noticed too, their job search function section. And you're already signed in because you have a Gmail account, which means that as you go through the listings here on the left, every time you click, you will see the listing. They found it online. They gave you a description, and they gave you all the different websites you can go ahead and apply on, if you wanted to apply on that job. And there's, as they said, 29 or more possible options. Let's say I was going to move to Philadelphia. See, that was useful. So I got this job in Philadelphia. Apparently I could apply on Glassdoor and multiple other sites. They gave me a sort of a run through about the job. Okay, let's say I was interested, but I'm really not sure I'm going to be moving to Philadelphia. So I want to save this for later. See, I could click save. And once I saved it, notice it's saved under my account, which means I can come back to it later. And you could too, because you're already signed in. It's going to remember you. It's going to remember your search. And it'll always be there as you go in. You're under jobs now, but you can go to saved later and you can go back. And these are some jobs that I saved before when I was teaching the class. I am not looking for these jobs. See, these are expired. But this one was posted 19 days ago. And I don't know, maybe it's not filled yet. So I saved it and I might come back to it later. Now I'm going to go back to jobs. Now, because it's Google, Google and its search functions, they're very specific and they're very powerful. You have all of these different categories of the ways you can tailor your search or do an advanced search. So right now I'm on the title, and you can choose various possible titles that are the closest to what you want in your job. So I say instructor, yeah. Teacher also. Coach, yeah, I'll look at a job that has something about coaching or instructors. Adjunct, no, I'm not going to a college. Assistant, no, I'm not. I'm beyond being an assistant. Education specialist, maybe. Specialist anyway. Technology instructor, yeah. And trainer. These are all more what I'm looking for, so I can filter out anything that had to do with these. Then in location, well, we talked about distance. I probably don't want to travel much more than 5 or 15 miles, and that would narrow down my search, right? And I also could say I only want to work in the New York area. I want to work from home. See, that's an option. Work from home. That's different than, see, these are remote digital lead instructors, which is what I'm doing now. Or I could say, I'd like to work in New York. And what did I say before? Philadelphia. Let me see if I can find Philly. Not Pittsburgh. funny. I don't see Phil. I guess I could probably type it in. Maybe I could type in Philadelphia. Well, anyway, so you can narrow down your distance. Maybe it's because I said 5 miles. Anyway, that's another way you can narrow down your search, or if you were moving. You could also narrow it down to only the last things, listings that were just in the last day. There's a few. Past 3 days, a few more, past week, past month. So you don't look at old sites. What type of job? Full-time, part-time? If I only wanted a part-time job, I'd say a part-time, or I'd say both, full-time and part-time. I'll consider them both. What does contractor mean? Contractor means that I am on call. I'll work for myself, but I'd be happy to work for you for projects or whenever you need me. That would be contractor. So if I clicked on that, I see there's only 2 of them. That would be a contractor. Or if I was looking for an internship, if you were younger or you were looking to get into some new category, what kind of company? Education, yes. Consulting, maybe. Not entertainment. I can't really imagine why I'd be, and not manufacturing. And then finally, if you knew what company you wanted to work for, you could actually go look for or click on some of these companies that actually you might prefer to work for. So these are all ways you can tailor your search. These are all ways that you can narrow down. You can save a job for later, and that's Google for Jobs. So what I'd like you to do is explore that for a few minutes if you want to. Pause the video. I'll just put a little space in here. And then if you've got through enough of the Google for Jobs, we can move on. All right. So I'm going to move on. You can always ask me questions on the side, and just email me if you have any questions about Google for Jobs. Let's move along to let's talk about Glassdoor. So Glassdoor is a really interesting website. Glassdoor, the interesting part about Glassdoor, in my opinion, is it has one really particularly unique feature. It's very well known. It's well utilized. It's well designed, and it's well manned. So they got good people associated with it. Glassdoor is unique in one particular way. Employers go there because they know that the employees who are going there, the potential employees, will have more faith in the companies that list on Glassdoor than others. And the reason is Glassdoor is one of the only websites that shows you what the employees think of working for these companies that are listing. They give you reviews, ratings, and it would be anyone who works at these companies could review and rate these companies. That's unique. It's valuable if you could look and see what people say about working for these companies that you're about to go through the application process for. You might hear things about how well they're organized, or how the management treats you, or how open the process is, what is the work atmosphere, what are the benefits like, what are the prospects for moving up, all sorts of things that you could find out about a company that you don't find out unless you do the legwork yourself on any other websites. So that is unique about Glassdoor, and there are millions of people using it, and thousands and thousands of employers who use it too. Because if you're going to list on Glassdoor knowing that you're going to be reviewed by your employees on the website, you better have confidence in your company. Think about it that way. That is an interesting feature, in my opinion, about why Glassdoor is different. So you can read the letter, the wording here. They want to help everyone find jobs and find companies that they love. So they're trying to connect people to the right job. It's one of the world's largest job recruiting sites. It has millions of job listings, with company reviews, the CEO approval ratings, salary reports, and a lot of other benefits and things that you can look up and they offer to you as well, and even pictures of the companies. So that is what I think is what's interesting about Glassdoor. So this I'd also like you to explore. So what I'd like you to do, it's a very simple Google search. You can open up maybe another Google search window and just simply type in glassdoor.com. And it's going to look like a lot of job websites, but you'll notice only a few different things. Mostly that you will notice you have the ability to see the listings, and some will include salary, pay scales, ratings, reviews about the company, about the benefits. It's a little more. than you may get from many other websites. So when you go to the website itself, it's going to look something like this. Generally speaking, it's probably going to be a good idea to register. You could probably register right away using your Google account. It can't really hurt. You can upload your resume, you can get going, or you can simply just start looking for jobs. So if you're looking for jobs, you have to click on the job section, even without signing up. But sooner or later, if you're going to apply, you're going to have to sign up. Why not? So you can start a job search just like you would on Indeed. And so again, it's the same thing. Where, what kind of job, not too different from any other website. And then of course you'll get listings. But notice the difference when you do get the listings. Yes, you can do some tailoring, advanced search. They do have advanced search up here. How far away? What's the salary range you're looking for? When do you want the job to be released? Is it you want it recently released? Do you want to look at further back, a month or a week, and more? What kind of job are you looking for? More tailored. Here are the listings related to your job search. But notice when you look at a job that came up, they only have one apply now. So you're doing it through Glassdoor, which is why you will need to be registered. But notice not only do you see something about the job and then about the company, but you see what people rate them as, who work there. You might find some information about the salary that they're offering and the salary scales that they have. And then you have the reviews of people who worked for them. And then they'll have, the company itself may have a whole section trying to sell you on why you should work for them. This middle section here is what's different. So if I were to do a similar search as I did before, and the search was, this time it was, I was going to go to Glassdoor, which I'd like you to do. You go to the Glassdoor website, and I go to jobs. And here's my search. I'm not signed up. Last time I was doing a search for catering jobs. So this time I'm going to do a search for digital literacy, again, instructor. And in Brooklyn, okay, why not? So there's not too many around on Glassdoor, but let's just say I looked at this charter school. I might have to go on to the, I might have to register. Oh, here we go. Now, notice the company, see, they want me to register, but let's look at this. There's the after school STEM instructor. So it's after school. I probably am not going to apply to that, but let's just say I was interested in that. Something about the salary structure at this school. See, you don't usually see that on websites. They tell you how they pay, generally speaking. An overview of the company, some information about the company. Then, of course, this interesting part about ratings. What do people think about the culture? What do people think about diversity and inclusion? What do people think about the work-life balance? Okay, so they're willing, this company, this school is willing to be subjected to these ratings. And then pros and cons of working for them coming from the employee. So here was one employee saying, not sure what to think. Go ahead and check it out for yourself. See if they're a good fit. If you're looking for a place where you can get experience, working with awesome kids and families, okay, this is right up your alley. The cons, school leaders need to take a closer look at student discipline and consider what works and what doesn't. So that was their point of view. Don't show any weakness around the kids or they eat you alive. That's really more of instruction to a teacher. But you get my point here. They're talking about whether they feel positively about working there or negatively. So far, this has been pretty good. Pros mostly. I haven't gotten a negative, and you can go to see all reviews. I think you would have to agree that this is different. And so what I'd like you to do is also spend some time. If you haven't already registered, stop. Why not register? Why not upload your resume? And start doing some searches. And notice which one, some of the companies don't have all of these ratings or reviews, but many of them, they may not have salary, but most of them have some of it. And think if you were to use Glassdoor, about how much more information you might find out about any given company. All right. You can pause now and come back in a minute. So I'm going to keep going now. I think we finished with Glassdoor. And finally, now I want to go to one more idea. And this takes a minute to discuss, but I want to talk about LinkedIn. All right, so hopefully you've gone through a little bit of Glassdoor, Google search for jobs. Now let's talk about one last option to think about, which is the social media function of job websites, and of which there's really one king of the hill, LinkedIn. There are a couple of others who have tried to compete, but LinkedIn is still at the top. It is the first developed and still the biggest. Essentially, what do we call it? It's basically a way for you to grow your network yourself using the functionality of social media, but in a professional way. You can set up a profile just like you could on Twitter, or you could on Facebook in particular, Instagram. You can set up a profile, but it's meant for professionals. So your profile would be directed towards either employers or other people in the business that you're interested in. So you can look at all these other people who are already currently either working and or successful in the industry that you're interested in. You could look at how they've achieved their goals, and you could even connect with them as if you could on a social media. And what's nice about that is once you start making connections, or you have other people who are involved in LinkedIn who you used to work with, you can have them endorse you, kind of like a like, endorse you for the skills you say you have, and maybe even write reviews about the experience of working with you if it's positive, which is what you want. So that is primarily the difference about using LinkedIn as a way to connect to other people in the industries all over the world, all over your city, all over your community, and all over your industries. So you can grow your network, you can get endorsements and recommendations from other people, and you can recommend and endorse other people, sort of a trade favor kind of thing. And you can always cultivate and update your profile. And sometimes people even just apply by using LinkedIn. Companies will just say, fine, I'm interested. Just give me access to your LinkedIn page, and I'll let you know if I want to contact you. It's almost like sending a resume out, only more. So its mission is to connect professionals, as I described, and it's huge. 500 million professionals all over the world, at least. They try to stress the quality of your profile page rather than how many people are connected to it, unlike Twitter. And then I guess I could say that you got businesses, recruiters, headhunters, anybody who's interested, HR people. If they're looking for workers, they might use LinkedIn almost exclusively just to find people. They're looking for the people who have what they're looking for. All right. Now, the thing about it is that it's a digital version or social media version of your resume. You can't just upload your resume. You're probably going to end up doing some copying and pasting from your resume to help build your profile. That's a little bit of a con. You have to do a little more work. Actually, the thing about LinkedIn is it's a lot of work, but it could be worth it. That's the thing. It takes time. You want it to look good. You want to have a nice picture. You want to make sure your profile is beautiful, well written, and up to date at all times, which means you got to go back to it from time to time. You got to check it from time to time. You can't just let it sit there like I do. I'm not looking for work. I'm not really a big LinkedIn person. But if you were looking for work and you did think it would be worthwhile connecting and putting yourself out there, that's going to take some time. Once you set up your account, you just can't just set up your account with no picture and nothing in it. You have to work on it. So you upload it by basically copying and pasting. You take sections of your resume, you paste it into the sections, and then you build your resume on your LinkedIn profile in their mode. So here's one illustration of my supervisor's LinkedIn page. And so you can see how it looks. She's got a good professional picture, which is important. It doesn't have to be professionally paid for, but it should have a good, positive, clear picture so that it's received positively. And you'll notice what's on her profile. Where is she now? Where has she been? What's her education? How many people at that time recommended her? I'm sure she has way more. She has more than 500 connections. She's very social. and people probably have even written things for her. And here's the version, here's what I was saying about the resume. So the experience is like this, and every one of them that you click on will probably have bullet points describing what you did in those jobs. So that's sort of how you build your experience portion. Now, once you have that part built up and you got your profile up, what you're looking for is, once you said what you're skilled at, and you have to say that, what you're skilled at. Let's say this is what she put up. She says she is a social expert in social media, digital marketing, and Microsoft Excel. Notice she's got a number of likes. I'm sure she's got a zillion more by now. And that's a positive. Obviously, if some employers were coming in to look at for somebody with her skills, and they saw that many people or more endorsing the skills you said you had, they might reach out to you themselves via LinkedIn. They might DM you, direct message you, which you can do on LinkedIn. Or other people look at your profile and say, wow, this person is doing well in this business. I'd like to connect with you because I'm interested in that business. Or you could do the same with somebody else. You can go through many profiles and find somebody who's doing what you want to do. And then you can reach out to them by DM and say, I'd like to connect with you. I'm interested in working in your field. Do you know of anybody who's hiring in your company, or anybody else? Or could you give me some advice? And they might respond to you. And then what are you doing? Building your network. You never know what one thing will lead to another. So it's been either businesses or worker to worker. You're connecting. Now notice what she also has here. She has people literally who work with her saying something positive about her. It's almost like a reference letter. And it doesn't have to be a supervisor. If you could get somebody you used to work with, or who used to teach you, or who used to know you on a professional level, and you can convince them to write something positive about you on your LinkedIn page. You can always delete it if you don't like it. But if you could, that's also a big boost, because if you see a lot of recommendations and people can read what people say about you, they might consider contacting you or hiring you more, especially if that's how they wanted you to apply to the job. If they literally said, if you're interested, connect me to your LinkedIn page, and they come look at your LinkedIn page and they look at this, it's almost like your application. They may contact you to offer you an interview just based on what you have on your LinkedIn page. But this, as I said, takes work. This is not one of those quick apply situations. If you're going to open up a LinkedIn account, you have to tend to it. It's like a garden. You got to water it. You got to trim it. You got to keep it up so that it's positive, current, and useful to you. That's the trade-off. But if you think about how this might work for you in the end, you might think that it might be worth it for you. Here's sort of the way your bullets would look. Every time a person would click on one of your past jobs, you would probably paste in the dates, the name of the company, your job title, and then paste some of the bullets, if not all the bullets, for the jobs that you did. And you could do it job by job. It takes a little bit of time, but that's how your experience would look. And this is more or less how the DM system works without the colors. You can always directly connect to somebody that you found on the LinkedIn website. On their profile page, you can direct message them and let them know that you're interested in connecting. You don't want to get too deep into it, and just say, be nice, polite, and let them know that you want to, that you want them to connect with you, so that maybe you can get some information or a lead, or get a connection to a job, or a connection to a connection that may lead you to a job, or connection to a connection to a connection to a job. That's what networking is, and that's what this website is designed to do on a social media basis. So if I were to go on to my web, I'm not even gonna bother. My LinkedIn page is not tended. I don't really tend it. It's stuck sort of back in my music days. Yes, I've updated it some, but I don't use it because I'm not looking. That's me. If I was still looking to either move up or move out, well, then I would probably have a very cultivated web LinkedIn page, a more recent picture that I like, because I hate the picture I have, and I would really tend to it, watch it, look at it, and look at other people's website profiles and connect to as many as I could. But I'd have to be prepared to put in the time. So I think I'm going to stop sharing and just talk finally about what you've done in these 5 weeks. Congratulations on putting in the work. You wouldn't be here if you didn't. It has been a great pleasure if I taught you. It's been a great pleasure to teach you. If it wasn't me, I'm sure Mr. Adams or any other digital literacy instructors would say the same thing. Please use these skills. I think you're ready. We wouldn't let you go to the end if you're not ready to jump in. Use these techniques, be efficient online, keep your resume up, and utilize all these multiple options, and don't stop. Don't stop using technology. Don't stop looking for work. Don't stop moving up, and don't stop believing in yourself. I hope that we have been a positive impact upon you. I certainly hope I have. And I can't tell you, this virtually never been a class that I haven't always said. It's been a great pleasure working with you. Good luck to you all. And let me know if you have any questions.